Good morning. I hope you had a nice Memorial Day. So for this first video, I just wanted to go over the basic structure of how I set up a web project for native web platform only development. And I want to go over the basic structure and template and details on why for everything. Should be a pretty short video. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm assuming anybody watching these videos has some experience with web development. So first thing I want to talk about is two config files here. The editor config file and the JSON config.json file. So if I open that way, there we go. If I open my editor config file, I always use the same settings for. I always put this in here. The main reason I put it in here is because some editors and certain language servers like to mess with both which line ending I use. So I always want Unix line endings. And they also sometimes like to mess with the indent size and change that to something other than 4. By using editor config, I can say that I want 4 spaces, and it tends to override any other language servers that want to do 2 spaces. So that just makes sure that my indents are going to be 4 in every kind of file, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and any other kind of files that we use. So that is that. And then the next one I want to look at is this jsconfig.json. The reason we make this file and the reason it kind of always has this content in it is for TypeScript language server support. We're not using TypeScript here. We're doing native only, no build step development. But by using the TypeScript language server and some JS comments, we can get full type checking and everything right in JavaScript without even using TypeScript. So I'm going to show how as we go on. But we do need this file, so that always has the same contents as well, which is just this thing saying that it's a CommonJS and ES6 for the target. Okay, so those are the 2 config files I start with, and the other 3 files are, of course, HTML, JavaScript, and a CSS file. So let's start by looking at the HTML file. So this HTML file probably looks pretty familiar for any other way you'd kind of scaffold an HTML file. If you're using Emmet, so you type the exclamation mark in Visual Studio and hit tab, you'll get something very similar to this. I have a few extra things in here I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about which meta tags I leave in and why. So first thing is we have the doctype HTML. Putting that at the top of our page just says that this is a modern HTML document and not to render it in any kind of quirks mode. Next thing of note is our HTML tag here does have a lang attribute on it telling what language our page is in. That's important. Next one, we do put this meta tag in the head saying that we're using UTF-8. This shouldn't be necessary anymore. UTF-8 is supposed to be the default for browsers, but some browsers, some platforms don't default to UTF-8. So it's good for us to put this in here. And we have it close enough to the beginning of our document. This will cause the browser to realize that it's in UTF-8 very quickly, restart the render process, and do the right thing. Next one is this viewport tag. I think most people have seen this. We need to put this in for mobile devices. And this is to tell mobile devices that our page is created basically with mobile in mind, and we don't need any rescaling of our page to make it look good on mobile. So we do still need to put this meta tag in there to make sure that our page isn't getting resized from a mobile device that assumes that it's a old desktop page that needs to be rescaled. This next one, not usually in boilerplate, but I like to put it in. And what this does is this makes a null shortcut icon. It basically says I have a or favorite icon. So I have a fav icon that just is empty, and this data colon image icon and all this embeds just a empty image for a fav icon. And the reason why I do that is that if you've ever opened a new page you're developing in Chrome or Firefox, on the development tab, on the network tab, you can see every time your page loads, the browser makes another request looking for a fav icon. And until you have one and to put it there, you'll get this kind of failed request all the time. And it's highlighted in red. And I just don't like seeing it. And I don't like the browser repeatedly making requests for something that it's not going to find. So until I have a fav icon set for my site, I start off putting this in here. And once we do, I would delete this out of there. Next thing, title, obviously. Next thing here is, we got a problem here. I'm going to get rid of that. Looks like I just kind of messed up this page here. All right, there we go. All right, so next thing is I have this link to my global style sheet. Well, this one might give some people pause if you're used to kind of Tailwind and the problems that Tailwind solves, and the kind of philosophical mistake we've tried to move away from is that prior to that, we used to have one CSS file and put all of our styling in there. And it made things difficult because the style was very far away from the layout, and because we had one CSS file that was trying to describe everything on a whole bunch of pages across our site, whether those be actual pages or the kind of faked pages you get in an SPA framework like React. The styles were very not local to the thing that we were trying to style. We're going to avoid that here. This site CSS file will only contain global styles, things that actually do apply to the whole site, so things that are more global. So we are still going to do page local styles by using a style tag in here if it comes up, and we are still even going to use element local styles by using style attributes on our elements down in the page. We have 3 different places we can do styles that address how local we want the style to be defined, and we should use all 3. And we used to way back, but at some point around 2005, I want to say, the entire web development community collectively decided for some reason that it was bad practice to do anything other than have a single link style sheet and put all of our styles over there. We don't need to do that. We can use this external style sheet. We can use a style tag to do stuff that is page local, and we can use the style and, to a point, class attribute on tags to define styles that are local to an element. And we're going to use all 3. There's no reason not to. All right, next is my script tag. I'm going to move this up on the same line since there's some contents. And I am linking an external script file for each of my pages, assuming they have JavaScript, and most of our pages are going to have some kind of JavaScript. So something you'll notice here is this type equals module. At this point, all modern pages should be setting type equals module on their script tags, whether that's for a linked JavaScript, or if you're doing your JavaScript right in the HTML page. You should have that type equals module. There's a couple things that does, which I'll get into as we go on, but the main thing it does is it causes the script's evaluation to be deferred. So that means that even though we have the script tag up here in the head, where it was always originally supposed to go, the script will not get evaluated until the entire document is loaded. This saves us from having to do this old trick where we used to take and put our script tags way down here to make sure the whole body was loaded before they ran, or this thing where we used to do this, but then in the script we'd have to, all of our code we wanted to run immediately, we'd have to put a on document ready so that it wouldn't run until the whole doc. We don't have to do any of that anymore. If you do type equals module, the script will not be evaluated until the whole document's loaded. So that defers evaluation. You can also do that just by putting a defer attribute, but you only need to do one or the other. And we're just going to do type equals module because, like I said, that does a few other things that we're going to get into. So that's how I set up the head, and then you'll see down in the body. I don't necessarily put anything in here, but I just wanted to show some usual global styles I set up. So normally I structure pages with a header, main, and footer. The header is the header for the page. The main is kind of the main content area, and the footer is the footer. We might have some other spots in here for navigation and things, but by default, we usually have all three of these. We're probably going to want to reuse the header and footer as we build more pages, but we'll get into how to do that later. So we will modify this a bit as we go on. But I have a header, main, and footer, and we're going to set up styles for those so those look nice. But you see the header just has an H1 in it. Main, for right now, we just have this paragraph tag. And then in footer, we use a small tag to put the copyright. So that is what my default starting HTML looks like. So now I'm going to talk about the CSS and then we'll be wrapped up. There's nothing in the JavaScript file yet because we haven't built anything yet. We don't really have any interactivity just yet. So let's go over to our CSS file. Okay, in the CSS file, a few things here. I have at the very top, I have these custom properties, and these are on star right now. That's not quite right, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that. So those should be on root there, and on the root of the entire page, we define these custom properties, and we can reuse these later. So I make heavy use of these custom properties so that we kind of have a whole our theme kind of up here, and we can put them in the right places down below, but we have the things we want to change right up here in one spot. We can also reuse them. So this is the page padding, and we're going to use that in a few spots, and I'll kind of talk about why. But we can see all this stuff up here, and we use these custom properties, or some people call them variables, though it's more proper to call them custom properties, not just because it's actually their name, but when we get into what you can do with them, they're more interesting than variables. Okay, so I have my custom properties up there. These don't do anything until we use them. We're just kind of defining some things we're going to use later. And then I have this box sizing reset. This is probably pretty familiar to most people. So this is just saying on all elements, before any before things we inject and any after things we inject. So this basically covers everything. And this says all elements have a box sizing, a border box. This just is a resetting a default to say that we always want to use border box layout. If you don't know what that is, that just makes basically the way width and height of elements are calculated a little bit more sane and sensible. So the width of something is actually the width, not the width excluding padding and things. All right, so I do that reset. I don't do a whole lot of resets here, but I do some. Next thing is I'm going to say the body and any input elements and any button elements have a font size equal to that font size set up here. The reason we have to do input and button, normally we just do body, and that would kind of affect everything in the body except for headings and things that by kind of definitionally should have a different font size. Inputs and buttons have their own font size normally that is separate from kind of the default body one. Normally I like them the same as the body, so I just set all of them to have that same font size. All right, next up down here, we're going to set the basic body styles. We're going to set a color and background color based on those properties above, set our font, and we always set height to 100 VH. That means that the body at minimum, you can do this with min height as well. It might be more correct to do min height. Let me see if that looks right. Yep. Okay. So we're going to set the min height to be 100 VH. That basically says, it's a little bit weird, but if you ever looked in the inspector and hovered over body, if you don't do this, the body actually won't necessarily be the whole height of the page. If your page is short, the body will be as short as your page. We want the body always at least stretching the entire height of the viewport. So we just set that min height to 100 VH. I set the margin and padding to 0. The reason for this is because of things with layout around that 100 height and things. We actually don't want any margins or padding on the body. We can put our margins and padding on the things inside the body, and things will just work out a lot better, especially with this. This way we don't have to do any math over here. Next, this I don't always do, but for this particular layout, we're going to do it. And this says that the body itself uses a flexbox layout, and it's column. So that means that my body elements, which if you remember the HTML, I only have 3. I have header, main, and footer. But those 3 are going to be just laid out in column order, one after the other. And I'm going to use that flexbox layout to do a sizing thing that people usually want in terms of the footer being at the bottom of the page. So my header, I'm going to set a padding end line to be that page heading. All 3 of these, header, main, and footer, all need that padding end line set. Because we didn't set it on the body, we want a little gap on either side of the heading, of the body, and of the footer. In this case, I'm using the same one for all 3. And the last little trick here is on main. I have a flex grow of 1, and that means that while they're stacked in order like that, main is going to grow to take up as much space. It's going to fill out that 100 view height and push the footer to the bottom of the page, even if we have a page that doesn't take up the whole viewport. So hopefully that makes sense. That'll give us kind of that header, big main area, and then the footer at the bottom of the page. Whether we scroll or not, it'll always be down at the bottom. Okay. So with these defined, that is my default page, and I do have live server running here. So I can show you what this looks like in the browser with this default style sheet and our default HTML that we're starting with, and that we'll build off of as we go on. So here is the web page. Okay, give me just a moment here. Okay. Just getting this window resized so that I can show this a little bit nicer. Okay. All right, so there's my web page, and you can see that the main content is taking up here, and the footers always push the bottom. That's because of that flex layout. So if we need to scroll, it'll be at the bottom, and even if we don't, it always kind of stays at the bottom there. So that gives us that layout we want, and that padding is all showing there. Now if we push F12 and take a look over here, we're going to get some nice clean stuff over here. So in the inspector, we can look at how all those things are being laid out, and the little purple inline margins we put there. And we can also see the body uses that flexbox layout, and that main is kind of expanding, and that's why that it's set to flex curl 1 to fill up as much space as it can. And that's what pushes our footer to the bottom. Another thing over here in the console, we're not getting any errors, and we don't see anything in the network section. Even if we refresh, there's any errors. It just goes and gets the root, goes and gets the site, CSS, and index.js, and that we can disregard. That's just part of live server. If we actually publish the site, we wouldn't see that. But all of those, and no errors here and no errors here. Now let me show you, just in case you haven't seen it, what I'm talking about. If we take out that shortcut icon and bring this page over and hit refresh, over in network, we are okay. I think this is because of caching. It thinks it has a has this cached. But anyway, we don't need to worry about that too much. If it wasn't, we'd be getting an error there, and that, there we go. You can see the error there. So if we don't do that, we're going to see that error normally if it's not caching it from a previous site that I did. You'll see that error in the console and in the network. It's just kind of annoying to keep seeing an error when we haven't actually done anything wrong, except for omitting a favicon. So we're going to put that back, and that's it. So that is the default layout that I use for a page. Oh, I did have one more thing before I wrapped up. So just to talk about, because I saw some videos recently made of people noticing this. I think because people have gotten so React brained that they're not used to normal HTML and the way these things work. So notice this meta tag. You might be more used to seeing this kind of thing, where you put these little spaces and closing things here. I'm not going to go into this too much, but a lot of people are used to seeing this kind of thing. That doesn't do anything. It used to, for a short time, we had a standard called XHTML, where you could denote self-closing tags by doing this thing. In modern HTML, that's not the case. These don't do anything. It's literally ignored. The space is ignored and that slash is ignored. So nothing happens when you do that. I'm just going to undo all these. That doesn't make a self-closing tag. So examples you've seen is if you go down here and you do this, and then put some text down here, this text would still be in the div, because that div, excuse me, that doesn't self-close. That's just an opening div tag, and this is ignored. It's just a div without a closing tag, so it's going to assume the closing is here. There's no such thing as explicitly making self-closing tags in HTML. The way HTML decides if a tag is self-closing, whether or not it needs a closing element, is based on what the type of tag is. So meta is a self-closing tag. It doesn't need a closer. Just definitionally, meta is. Link, same thing. It doesn't need a closing tag. Title always does. Link never does. Script always does. So all of them work this way. They just either do or they don't based on their name. You can't override or change that behavior by putting spaces and slashes. Because you can't do that, there's no real value in you doing it. Some people think it's nice for documenting, but it just makes your page look uglier, to my thinking. And you're actually just adding characters to your page that don't need to be there. So that is why I don't put those in there. They don't do anything. You don't need them. And in fact, putting them in there kind of reinforces a wrong idea about how HTML works. So we're not going to do that. All right, so that's it kind of for my basic template. Next video, I think we will get started on a first app with, it should be interesting, and this will be just kind of a basic to-do app. So this is kind of a classic example. We're going to make a to-do list where you can add items, remove items to the list, and check items off on the list or uncheck them as they're done, or you want to mark them not done. So we're going to build that app out. We are going to do it without a server, which will be interesting. And I don't mean serverless, as people say. I mean, we're going to store all the data on the user's machine locally. We're not going to be working with a server. We'll get into server stuff a little bit later, but I just wanted to do kind of a basic example to start off with. So I will do that after this one. All right, well, I hope that that was interesting, and I'll see you guys next video. If you like this, please like, subscribe, and click the little bell.